Morning, everyone. Meteorologist Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone's having a nice Thursday morning. Got a little bit of rain in the forecast today, some cooler weather. Also have some hotter weather in the forecast as well. So we have a little bit of everything as we head over the next several days. So we'll go ahead and kind of break down the forecast here as we head over the next couple days. Starting with, again, first though, because it is Thursday, a look at the latest drought monitor that we have across the region. Right now we're looking at last week's drought monitor. And again, we've continued to see some expansion in drought over the past several weeks. Again, it was a fairly dry August. And again, so far through just the first few days of September, really haven't seen much in the way of any measurable moisture across the state. So this is what it looked like last week. Had some expansion in the moderate drought areas across parts of northwestern, north central Nebraska into southeastern Nebraska. Some severe drought creeping in across the far northwest, and then across parts of Jefferson into Gage County. And now what we have this week looks like this. And again, unfortunately, we just continue to see things expand when it comes to the drought conditions. So again, further expansion of the moderate drought across the southeastern corner of the state. Have over 50% of the state now under at least some sort of drought conditions, abnormally dry, or or worse, excuse me. If you look at the change map, again, the areas in yellow is where we saw drought get worse by at least one class. We did have a sliver there in parts of central Nebraska where we did see some improvement from last week to this week, but again, really not much. So again, getting worse just about everywhere we go across the state, southern sections of the state. Again, Lancaster County, Saline, Seward County, seeing that expansion up into the northeast, up across north central parts of the state. Continue to see those drought conditions get worse. So again, I've said it yesterday, I've said it a couple times over the past couple days. Would really like to see a little bit of a pattern change when it comes to our rainfall and our moisture. Again, we did a lot of work to get rid of a lot of our drought, and you can see that here as you look at the drought time series, basically what the drought status has looked like in Nebraska over the past year. Again, you can see it was about this time last year. Again, things were worse, but we had about the same amount of abnormally dry conditions. We did have higher amounts of moderate, severe, extreme, and even exceptional drought across the state, so we're not there yet. But we got rid of all that, and again, it was probably late May, early June that things kind of bottomed out for us. Again, just had less, around a quarter or less percentage-wise of the state that was just under abnormally dry conditions. But again, now we've seen that grow and grow over the past several weeks. So again, now 40% of the state under abnormally dry conditions, about 21% of the state under moderate drought, 6% under severe drought, just 32% with no drought conditions across the state. With this latest drought monitor that's been released. If you look at the National Drought Monitor, again, we've looked at this the last several weeks. Again, a couple spots that we were keeping an eye on, one down across the desert southwest, West Texas, then up across Appalachia, again, West Virginia into parts of Ohio. Have some areas of moderate to exceptional drought in those areas. Also now keeping an eye on the high plains from eastern Wyoming through eastern Montana, western Dakotas. Again, those areas have seen drought conditions continually get worse over the past several weeks. And then parts of western Montana, we do have some extreme drought mixed in there as well. But again, it's late summer. This isn't entirely out of the ordinary for us to see, again, drought again pick back up again in the late summer months. Again, we'd like to see it maybe stay the same as opposed to getting worse, but again, not entirely surprising to see this trend just a little bit. If you look at the national drought time series over the course of the last year, again, you can see right now, in terms of our percentage of the country with abnormally dry conditions, we're at our highest point that we've been at for the past year. So again, have a little bit of work to do in that regards, but still just an exceptionally small percentage of the country under any extreme or exceptional drought, just a little under 2.5% for both of those categories. So again, fortunately, don't really have much in the way of good news when it comes to any maybe drought mitigation, because not looking for much of any moisture as we head over the course of the next week. There will be a chance, as we look at your weather headlines, for some scattered light rain today, but again, we're talking maybe just a few hundredths of an inch to maybe a tenth of an inch or two at the very most for those areas that do see some moisture, which again, we're losing more than that with the evapotranspiration, the corn sweat, and things like that every day. So not really too much of a dent with what we could potentially see today. But again, it's better than nothing. So that's going to be coming as a cold front slips across the state. That cold front will bring in some cooler temperatures as we head into Friday and the upcoming weekend. Again, looks like it's going to be a really nice weekend, especially on Saturday. Again, if you're heading down to Memorial Stadium, we'll look at the game day forecast here in just a minute. But again, looks like some really nice weather. But then things, again, it's still September. We still have some hot weather in the forecast. And again, we'll be turning hot again as we head through the week next week. Just a few minutes past the top of the hour right now in Lincoln, starting to see some clouds try and filter in. Upper 60s at the airport, right at 70 degrees here in Midtown Lincoln at 40th and Vine. North wind around 6 miles an hour and dew points in the low 60s. So again, overall, not a bad morning out there. Temperatures statewide generally in the middle to upper 60s across much of the 10-11 coverage area. Mid-50s to low 60s as you head across the western third of the state. 68 in Grand Island, 64 in North Platte, and right now Alliance is the cool spot. They're at 54 degrees this morning. Dew points aren't too bad. Again, maybe just a touch on the muggy side for some spots in the northeast where we have dew point readings in the middle 60s, but it's generally upper 50s to low 60s for most of the 10-11 coverage area. And again, that dew point trend, as that front moves through today, that's going to bring down the dew points that, again, aren't all that high, but it's going to bring them down even more. So again, really no humidity to be worried about as we head through the upcoming weekend or even into next week. Again, it's going to be hot next week, but it's not going to be all that humid for us. So we can see the winds behind that front have switched to the north at around 5 to 15 miles an hour. Expect that northerly breeze to continue through the day today. Satellite radar picture, again, we can see the clouds. We can also see some of the scattered light rain trying to get going with that frontal boundary. If we look at the visible satellite imagery, we can see a little bit of that vertical development with some of that activity. So again, there's just not a ton of moisture with this system. Again, moisture is obviously something we need. There's a little bit of instability. There's just a little bit of lift, again, with the front. That's going to be enough to at least give us some isolated to scattered showers, and maybe an isolated thunderstorm mixed in there. So again, as you're out and about this morning, don't be surprised if we see a few sprinkles, again, or a passing light rain shower. But again, it's not going to be a ton of moisture with this system. It's, again, very low impact is what we would call it. So again, that's the statewide view. If you zoom out, look at a regional view, that front basically extending from across parts of Wisconsin through Iowa into Nebraska and then down across parts of West Kansas and eastern Colorado. Again, so some scattered showers, isolated thunderstorms along that line. You zoom out, look at a national view, we see the front. We also see some activity along the Gulf Coast. Again, that's bringing some moderate to heavy rain for portions of southeast Texas into Louisiana and then along the Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida coastlines down there. If you look at the weather alerts, we do still have some flood watches that are in place, again, across southeast Texas and Louisiana. Again, so some heavy rain possible in those areas. Otherwise, really the big thing of note, if you look at the national headlines in terms of impactful weather, it's going to be the heat along the west coast into the desert southwest. Excessive heat warnings remain in place for parts of Arizona into Nevada and southern California, and then heat advisory extending up the California coast into Oregon as well as Washington State, where we also have some excessive heat warnings in place for those areas. So again, some very hot conditions in the west today. Otherwise, not a whole lot going on across the middle and eastern sections of the country. So if we check out Skycast, that front's going to continue to slowly drift through the area today, bringing in the potential for some scattered light rain. I think we'll be dealing with some variable cloudiness through the morning into the afternoon, but as we head towards Thursday evening, we'll start to see things begin to clear out just a little bit. So I think mostly clear to partly cloudy by 5 o'clock Thursday evening. Again, it should be a cooler evening for us compared to what we had yesterday behind that front. Should overall, again, be pretty nice evening across the area. And then as we head Thursday into Friday, again, our in-house model is trying to spark off maybe an isolated shower or two for central sections of the state. And we're not really buying that just yet, but that potential is out there. I think most areas likely stay dry with mostly to partly sunny skies for the day on Friday. High pressure settles into the area as we head Friday into Saturday. And again, that's going to keep the weather fairly quiet. Mainly clear skies as we head into Saturday evening. Again, the Huskers hosting Colorado. That's set for a 6:30 kick Saturday evening, and the weather does not look like it should be a factor for that game at all. As far as the severe weather outlook, we do have one little marginal risk area across parts of New Mexico today. So an isolated severe storm can't be ruled out in those areas. But again, here at home, we're looking at just maybe an isolated non-severe thunderstorm being possible through the day today. For the day on Friday, no severe weather threat for us. There is a marginal risk across parts of Ohio back to into Indiana and northern Kentucky, again along that front as it continues to march off to the east. And then on Saturday, again, no severe weather threat really across any parts of the country, just some general thunderstorms possible across parts of the Panhandle into southwestern Nebraska. Rainfall potential over the course of the next week. Again, this is where I said I didn't really have great news. There'll be decent moisture down across the far southern parts of the country. We're looking at little to basically nothing in the way of measurable moisture as we head over the course of the next 7 days. As far as high temperatures are concerned, today a little bit cooler than what we had yesterday. We'll call it seasonal for the southeastern corner of the state. We'll call it below average for the rest of the state. So mid-80s in Lincoln, but upper 70s, low 80s for much of central and western sections of the state. Low temperatures tonight should be fairly comfortable. Again, you could open the windows tonight. Upper 40s to upper 50s for those overnight lows into early Friday morning. Friday afternoon temperatures very comfortable for central and eastern Nebraska, generally in the 70s, mid-70s is what we'll say. 77 in Lincoln, 73 in Grand Island. Still in the 80s, though, for North Platte, and then upper 80s for parts of the Nebraska Panhandle in the far, far west by Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, again, you could open the windows, maybe a bit on the chilly side, again, for far eastern sections of the state. Mid-40s for morning lows from Wayne down through Tacoma, and then into the upper 40s as you head towards Omaha, Nebraska City, and Falls City and Lincoln. We'll say right around 50 degrees, our coolest morning thus far. This, fall season, this early part of the fall season is 49. We had that, I believe it was last Saturday morning. So again, something to watch for. Again, definitely could open the windows, but again, may want to have a sweatshirt or throw an extra blanket on the bed if you're going to keep the windows open. This is certainly something that I will definitely enjoy. And then Saturday afternoon, again, still a little bit hotter in the west, low 80s to low 90s. But again, much of central and eastern Nebraska, we're looking at temperatures generally in the mid 70s by Saturday afternoon. So that Anderson Wealth and Retirement Husker game day forecast looks like this. Again, if you're tailgating, weather looks like it's going to be picture perfect, mostly sunny and mild. Those temperatures again in the 70s. Kickoff again 6:30, right around 73 degrees. Again, mainly sunny, not much wind, really no humidity. So again, picture perfect conditions for this game. And then post game, probably going to be ending right around 10 o'clock Saturday night. Temperatures into the low 60s, and again, if you're out late, temperatures dropping into the upper 50s by midnight. But again, mainly clear, cool. Again, maybe you need to bring a sweatshirt, something like that to the game, because again, might be just a bit on the cool side by the time that game wraps up late Saturday evening. But again, weather should not play a factor really at all when it comes to the game on Saturday. So 7-day forecast in Lincoln looks like this. Again, mid 80s today, mid 70s Friday and Saturday, but then things do warm back up. Sunday back to the mid 80s, so about normal for this time of year, but then above average temperatures return, low 90s Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. But again, not much humidity expected during that time, so not going to be overly burdensome in that fact. But again, temperatures will be warming back up. But as they say, it'll be a dry heat or a drier heat for us. So that's, again, shouldn't be too bad. Extended forecast for select cities across the state. Again, 10-day forecast. Again, pretty easily discernible trend here in that it's cooler today, but coolest weather will be Friday and Saturday. Temperatures generally in the 70s, and then when things begin to warm up a bit on Sunday, and then our warmest stretch over the next 10 days will fall as we head through the week next week, with those temperatures in the upper 80s to even upper 90s across some parts of the state, especially kind of the north central, northwestern, western sections of the state. It will be pretty hot through the week next week. Extended forecast 8 to 14-day temperature outlook looks like this. Again, this has kind of been the trend over the past few days. But we're looking at very good odds at above average temperatures. Again, this is taking us from September 12th through September 18th. Normal high temperatures for Lincoln and eastern Nebraska through this time frame generally sit in the lower 80s. I'll just double check that number here. Punch up. So for September 12th, our average high in Lincoln is 82. By September 18th, our average high is 80. So, yeah, again, low 80s. So, again, this doesn't necessarily mean triple-digit heat, but, again, could mean upper 80s, low 90s through that time frame. And then, again, unfortunately, like I've said a couple times, really don't see much in the way of a pattern change in terms of the precipitation. Again, also during this time frame, we're looking at better than average odds of seeing below average precipitation, which again, we haven't seen much in the way of precipitation really at all over the past 5 to 6 weeks. Again, in August, we just had an inch and a half of moisture here in Lincoln. Our normal precipitation is around 3 1/3, so we were less than 50% of what we should normally get in August. Again, we did have a very wet July. But again, falling behind over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And our average moisture continues to decrease as we head into the fall season. Again, we averaged just under 3 inches precipitation in Lincoln during the month of September, around just over 2 inches in October, about 1 1/3 in November, and just under 1 1/4 in the month of December. So, yeah, that's a lot going on over the course of the next couple days. Again, we do have that small chance for some spotty light rain today, but then again, cooler weather for Friday, Saturday. It looks like it's going to be a really nice start to the weekend. But then, again, turning hot again as we head into the week next week. So we'll keep an eye on it for you like we always do. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Right now, again, live on 1011's platforms. This is something we try and do most every morning, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m., just a little live forecast update from the streaming studio here. Again, so you can tune in and watch on 1011's live platforms. Also live on the 1011 YouTube channel as well, again, where if you're watching there, we appreciate it. Tell you to like and subscribe to that YouTube channel. We do a ton of different stuff from the YouTube channel. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching as always. Keep it tuned to 1011 both on air and online for all of your latest news, weather, and sports. Hope everyone has a nice Thursday.